Great. Well, welcome everyone. I know there are others joining us. They're in the waiting room, but we can get started. Thanks for joining our 13th Tuesday Zoom chat. My name is Kathy Bryan, and I'm the CPS2, the Community Program Specialist at the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We cover the Sacramento region, which involves counties Sacramento, Yolo, Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, Placer, Nevada, Sierra, Alpine, and El Dorado. So there's 10 counties we cover. I'd like, if you will, to introduce Sonia Bingaman, the manager in the office.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to keep my eye on the front door because I'm letting people in, but thank you so much for being here. This is such an important topic, and we're glad you could join us. I did want to let you know that we do have 2 Zoom chats scheduled for September, just 2 that month, and that will be on September 8th on the census and September 22nd on voting. So I hope you'll all join us for those. We really want to spread the word. The census is so important that everyone gets counted. And of course, voting is just really, really important. So join us for those. We'll send out some reminders via email in the next few days. I'll keep an eye on the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to put a question in the chat about what Kelsey and Kathy are talking about at that moment. And then, of course, we'll have time at the end as well. And then toward the end of our morning together, I will also launch a poll, and that will be 2 very brief questions. I'll read the questions for you when I launch it, and it'll just be yes, no answers. If you can answer those questions when we launch it, that would be great, and then we'll continue for a few minutes after that. So thanks again, and I'll turn it back over to Kathy.
Okay, thanks, Sonia. For those of you who aren't as familiar with the State Council, we were established by state and federal law as an independent state agency to ensure that people with developmental disabilities and their families receive the services and support they need. Through advocacy, capacity building, and systemic change, the State Council works to achieve a consumer and family-based system of individualized services and supports and other assistance. During COVID, we're choosing to reach out into the community and find out ways or what the needs are of people with disabilities and sharing that information with local, state, and federal agencies. We're also working to create plain language and other documents to help people with disabilities and their families and provider to understand what's going on right now. I know you're all busy, and thank you so much for being with us today. We're really fortunate. I'd like to introduce Kelsey Handcock with Disability Rights California. She's joining us today, and I will pass it over to you, Kelsey. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can get going.
Of course. Hi, Kathy, and hi, everybody. Good morning. So again, my name is Kelsey Handcock. You might have known about the previous client's rights advocate, Brittany Gillespie. So she was promoted to my supervisor, and then I moved into her position. So she is still with the organization. So we are all working together to continue advocating for individuals with disabilities. So for those who don't know, the Office of Clients' Rights Advocacy that I work for is a program through Disability Rights California, and it's funded through a contract with the California Department of Developmental Services. So as the OCRA, we advocate on behalf of consumers with developmental disabilities from the 21 regional centers throughout the state of California. So we represent people who are currently receiving regional center services, or they are seeking to be eligible for regional center services. And I am an attorney and the client's rights advocate. So you have one for every single regional center throughout the state, which is 21. And we get this question a lot where we are not employees of the regional center. We are not affiliated with the regional center. We are employees of Disability Rights California, and we represent consumers of the regional center. So we can provide free legal services for the consumers. We try to help resolve legal problems, and we help individuals self-advocate. All right, so today we're going to talk about IPPs, individual program plans. So do we want to start with questions?
Yeah, so thanks, Kelsey. Sorry for interrupting. So we'll do, I'll ask Kelsey some questions. She'll give some information, and then there's going to be an opportunity for you to ask questions, and you can always ask something in the chat too. So just want you to know that this is a good opportunity if you have any questions. And our first question is, how would we prepare for an IPP, an individualized program plan?
Yes. So an IPP is an action plan that talks about the assistance needed to live the way the consumer wants to live. So in order to prepare for an IPP, what we should be working towards is identifying the consumer's goals, services, and supports needed to live an independent and life and participate in the community. So an IPP is the written agreement and a contract between the two parties, and the two parties, the consumer and the regional center. So when it comes to preparing for an IPP, what we try to do is, how do you ask for one? So you ask the regional center. In a written agreement, you email them, you call them, you can ask in person. You ask for the IPP. And for brand new clients, it usually happens within 60 days. But if there is a current IPP, it will happen within 30 days. So you should have a meeting within 30 days of the time that you make the request. When it comes to examples of goals, services, and supports that you should identify in an IPP, and what you should look towards is places to live. Well, where are you going to live? Whether you are living with family or independent living, what are your goals in how to achieve that? And what services would you feel that you need to help get you where you want to go? And that also applies when it comes to where you want to work, where you want to go to school, and what kind of work in school do you want to attend. We're also looking at, when you are preparing for an IPP, is looking at services outside of these. When you want to look at socialization goals, you want to look at those outside of services as well. When it comes to, okay, do we want to do volunteer opportunities, visits with friends, hobbies, dating, and how do you assist in these goals to achieve the services and the livelihood that you want? When it comes to also planning for an IPP and just getting prepared, we have many guides online when it comes to Disability Rights California. The website has a planning guide on what you should be meeting, what kind of goals should you be looking at on our website. And the SCDD also has some goals and planning strategy guides on their website as well. So you can always look online to decide what services would be the best when you are wanting to prepare for your IPP.
Great, thanks. Kelsey, what are people's rights in an IPP meeting?
So when it comes to your individual rights, we want to look at decision-making rights. And that is going to be the most important when I'm looking at an IPP and when I am advocating for individuals for their IPP, is making sure that it is absolutely person-centered. You have to look at having that person be the ultimate decision maker in what their life is going to be. So when you are asking what services and goals it's not us telling you, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. No, it is, what do you want? And when it comes to speaking with family members, friends, individuals who are part of their life, is really helping them advocate for the client and making sure that even if they are confused and are not quite sure what they want to do with their life and their goals, is helping somebody really articulate that, and articulate that during an IPP meeting and prior to it. So what we have suggested is when it comes to your rights, is really having it written down so that you write down your list of future goals, services, and what you want and need to get to that point. We're also looking at what services to be part of the consumer's community. You have the right to help put together your own IPP, and you have the right to disagree with it. If somebody is putting in there, oh no, you don't need this service, or actually we want you to be in this service instead, you have the right to say, no, I don't agree with that. Most importantly for an IPP is that you have the right to invite whoever you want to attend the IPP with you, to make sure that you have your community and your circle of trusted individuals who are going to be there to advocate for you. When it comes to also your rights, and when it comes to your rights, what documents you should be provided at your IPP meeting, we also want to have it written down that these are the documents and these are the plans and goals that you should have. You should have your IPP written down. You should have assessment plans on what assessments are going to be done. You should have your rights written down, your appeal rights if you disagree, and your notices of actions. And all of these documents should also be written down in your native language, in the language that you prefer to have it written down in.
Okay, good, thank you. The next questions, what are some strategies for an effective IPP meeting?
So when looking at an effective IPP meeting, we want to look at what should the consumer ask during the meeting. We're looking at assessments. What assessments are needed in order to get to the services that you want? Reports, when it comes to what reports are in there, and documents that are saying why you need these services, why you need these goals. And I want to look at the strengths, your weaknesses, your interests, areas of growth, progress, and overall what services, when, how, and what amount of services are going to be placed for those areas of growth. And when it comes to also strategies for an effective IPP meeting, most important is who is going to be attending this IPP meeting, and having the person at the IPP meeting who can say yes or no during that IPP meeting. You need the ultimate decision maker when it comes to what the regional center services they're going to provide. And most of the time, that's going to be the service coordinator from the regional center. And having that person at the meeting can really help make an effective meeting when it comes to, I want this service. They're the ones that can say yes or no, or we can't provide that, we can provide that. If that person is not there, it's going to be a very difficult meeting, because all they're going to say is, oh, we have to look into that, we have to do this, or it brings out more time, it delays the process, get it done instantly. If you find out that that point person cannot be there at that meeting, you have the right to request a second meeting within 15 days to make sure that that decision maker is going to be there present at the meeting. It's going to make it way more effective if somebody can instantly give you a yes or no, because they instantly give you a no, you can start on the disagreement process, which I'll get to in a little bit. And I also want to emphasize the tools that the consumer can use to make sure their voice is heard during the IPP meeting, and that those tools are going to be your circle of trust, that when it comes to family members, friends, caseworkers, any kind of service provider, somebody that you trust and somebody who's going to be there to say, I think that this is what they want, and this is what needs to be done. This is the services that the consumer wants. Having somebody there to have your back. And also when it comes to an effective IPP meeting, you want to look at the IPP document, the actual contract plan that is going to be written out for you for signature, and look at what's included in that. So it must include the services and supports that the consumer needs and wants, and that includes the type of services and the amount. And it will also include who will provide those services. Sometimes it could be just a generic agency, or you can have a particular provider, but it also has to say when the services are going to start. I do not recommend anyone signing an IPP that says, oh, to be determined, a proposed plan. No, we can't do proposed plan when it comes to a contract. Just from lawyers speak, we don't do any type of set contract on a proposal, a maybe. That's not how it's going to work. We need who, what, when, and where. What are these services that are going to happen? So in the IPPs, sometimes we see that if services cannot start right away, we're seeing this right now because of, this tiny little thing called a pandemic that's happening right now, unfortunately. We're seeing some services that are being either delayed or they need time to set it together just because of state lockdown orders, quarantine, concerns that are happening outside in the world. So if services cannot start right away because other steps are needed, then the IPP must say what steps will be taken to get to that goal, who's going to be responsible for each step, and what's going to be the timeline on completing those steps in order for the service to start. And again, an IPP ready for signature should list those specific goals and objectives. No proposed plans.
Good, thank you. And the last question, Kelsey, if there are disagreements with an IPP, how should someone move forward?
Okay, so for disagreements, that's where we're usually called during those stages. If you have a disagreement with an IPP and you feel that you need additional help, I highly encourage either the consumer or the family, friends, trusted individuals of that person to give a call to either State Council or Disability Rights California and we can help guide you on what those next steps are going to be and how to effectively get those next steps. When it comes to what the consumer should feel that they are being listened to in this process. And the disagreements usually happen when a consumer feels they are not being listened to. If they feel that they're not being listened to effectively, I highly encourage to tell somebody, a friend, relative, service coordinator, client advocate, or any service provider. So the question I get a lot is, do you have to sign the IPP? So we stated a little bit before that it's a contract that both parties sign and get it going. You do not need to sign it at the meeting. If you feel that everything is pretty set up and you feel comfortable with everything, yes, you can sign it. But if there are disagreements, you do not need to sign it. What we suggest when it comes to a lot of signatures and a lot of disagreements is that you can agree to some parts of an IPP and you can disagree with some parts of it as well. If you are disagreeing with just a certain section of it, but you agree with it overall, the best way is going to be to write it out. Write out, I disagree with this section of it, so that the entirety of the IPP will be implemented and you can start with that. However, the part that you disagree with will not be implemented. When it comes to disagreements, especially when it's concerning a bigger matter, the next steps are going to be trying to resolve the issue before it gets any further into the appeal process. What happens if you get that final decision and you just cannot meet it at that meeting? So what should the next step be? Well, if you are at the meeting and you're discussing and it's just not going anywhere at that point, that there's still going to be disagreement, the team must schedule another meeting within 15 days so that either they can continue mediating a little bit, making some changes, updating, see if you can come to a compromise. And if you cannot do that, then an appeal process might be the next start. So what do you do if the regional center says no to any of the service requests during your IPP? I don't know why everyone's calling me this morning. So what do you do if the regional center says no to any service requests during an IPP? If they say no, then the regional center must send a written denial notice within 5 days. You're going to get a list, just a denial notice saying, well, we are going to deny this part of the service, and it has to be sent to you within 5 days. A lot of questions we get is, well, I never got a notice. What does that mean? So if you do not get the denial notice, we highly suggest that you contact the case manager, your service coordinator, and demand the denial letter. If you do not receive the denial letter still, you can still file an appeal without a denial notice, and you would file a 4731 complaint, that's what we call it, against the regional center, and it would be against the service coordinator saying that they did not do this properly and they need to fix that situation. So when it comes to a denial notice, it's going to also include exactly what changes that they're going to do, and it must include the form on how to appeal. So the appeal should also, instructions should be included in that notice. And probably the next question is, how do you appeal a decision? So again, the instructions should be on the denial notice. And if you need help with that, again, that's going to be help from SDCC. You're going to have, you can also contact Disability Rights California, and we can help show you how to make that appeal. Really contacting, again, the circle of friends, your family, anyone can appeal on your behalf and assist you in that matter. You do not have to do this alone. So if you want to fight the denial, you should file an appeal within 10 days of receiving the notice if you want to continue receiving the current services that you have. If the denial is to stop a service and you want it to continue throughout the appeal process, you have to appeal within 10 days. If the denial is for a new service that you haven't had already, then you have 30 days to appeal. Even if it's for a service that they want to stop or want to change, you can still appeal within 30 days. However, if you don't make that 10-day timeline, it just means that the service is going to stop and it will not start again until unless you win an appeal. When it comes to appeal process, if you get that denial letter, if you have the individuals who are with you at your IPP, you'll know that this notice is coming so that you can immediately get started on it and immediately get it out the door and within timelines if you have somebody who is going to be assisting you. A lot of questions that we get also are your rights during the appeal process. And an appeal process, really, you have the right to attend all meetings that are part of it. You have the right to written or spoken evidence, because when you are going to an appeal, it is a hearing, an administrative hearing. It's a little less formal than court hearings. It's not going to be like what you see on TV with the whole judge and the courtroom and the jury, none of that. It's very informal, very calm and relaxed. They understand that the vast majority of people who are coming in are not attorneys, so don't come in thinking you're going to be Perry Mason. It's totally fine. You can have witnesses that testify for you. You can cross-examine the regional center witnesses, which are normally just the service coordinator and maybe one what they deem expert when it comes to that specific service. And part of that, your rights, is that you can have an advocate, an attorney, or someone else represent you. And you can have that person assisting you throughout the appeal process. You also have the right to see whatever records the regional center is going to have about you and your case. When it comes to steps in the appeal process, you usually have that you ask for a hearing in person, whether it's in person, over the phone, or in writing. You wait for the regional center response, and then you get the fair hearing request form. You fill out a form saying that you would like a hearing, and that usually starts it. A lot of times we see is that there will be an informal meeting between the consumer and the regional center director to try and resolve the issue before it gets any further into any administrative hearing process. If you it's really a good time that the vast majority of these cases usually get resolved prior, because we find a common ground, we find a compromise, or the regional center backs off and goes, actually, we saw the evidence and we changed our mind. You do need this service. Along with an informal meeting, you can also do what they call mediation, that you go to an independent trained professional called a mediator, and they can help garner some sort of compromise for that service or for that objective that it's needed in the IPP. So the very end, if none of that happens and there's still an issue, still concerns, then you would go to a hearing. And like I said, hearings are pretty informal. It's calm, relaxed. It's just an administrative hearing judge, and you state your case, regional center states their case, and it's all pretty calm and relaxed. So you have the right to a hearing no more than 50 days after the regional center receives your request for a hearing. And after that hearing, the judge will make a decision within about 10 days. From that point, you'll have that decision. And a lot of questions we get asked is that decision final? If you don't agree with that decision, what's the next step? Well, you can appeal this final decision to the Superior Court in your county. And you must ask for this appeal within 90 days after the decision. And from what I'm going to tell you is that the next step when it comes to those appeals, it's kind of complicated. It involves many steps. And at this point, you're going to Superior Court and not Administrative Court. So it is, we highly suggest contacting Disability Rights California, or contacting any other attorney to assist you in this matter, only because that appeal process is a little bit more time consuming than the previous one. And it will not be a new hearing. They will just review the previous hearing, and they're looking at two things: whether the hearing was fair and whether there was any incorrect legal reasoning from the administrative judge. So you don't present any new evidence on this one. It's just to review whether the evidence presented in the previous one, whether that made for a correct outcome. So again, when it comes to the appeal process, or when you have disagreements with your IPP, I highly suggest asking for help. Contacting State Council, contacting Disability Rights California, or contacting any other advocate to assist you in this matter so that you can have the best outcome for your IPP.
Okay.
Hi, go ahead, Kathy. Kathy, go ahead and ask Janelle's question for her. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't been looking at the chat. If you could do that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Janelle has a question, and she asked if we would ask it for her. So at an IPP meeting, if the regional center says they must take something back to a committee before agreeing to a service, is that a legitimate process? If so, are there timelines for receiving the committee's decision? Is there a right to know who makes up that committee, considering that they are outside part of the IPP team? They're outside of the IPP team.
I've seen this process happen when you do not have the point person at the meeting. I've seen this when consumers ask for really big ticket items, we call them, and really big issues that maybe a service coordinator by themselves cannot answer, and it might have to go to their supervisor. If they are talking about a committee decision, then you have the right to ask them, well, what committee, who is going to be part of this decision for my IPP and my services? You do have the right to ask. If, when it comes to a timeline, we usually, it's supposed to be in a reasonable time, but we've seen it where 2 weeks is when it comes to making a decision like that. And when it comes to getting a notice of action or appealing a process, we've also seen it where it's not them necessarily just saying no, but them delaying an answer so far in the future that you have to reasonably assume that it is a no. So you can still appeal even if they are taking forever in giving you an answer. Because even filing for that appeal or requesting a hearing can make them make a decision a little faster.
Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Okay.
We've got a number of questions here. Another is, if there's information in the IPP that is not accurate, can I ask the regional center to correct it? And what do I do if they do not correct it?
Now, you absolutely can state, you can go in there and correct it. You can say, this is not correct. This is what my understanding of this situation is. This is what my understanding of what my services are. We suggest with those that you cross out whatever was incorrect and write down what the correct answer is. If they are saying that they do not want to correct it, then you can go in there and put that down as your disagreement, saying, I disagree with this statement. And writing it out kind of makes that point null and void when it comes to a contract.
Thank you, Kelsey. There's a number of questions, but I also want to invite anybody who wants to unmute themselves and ask the question themselves. You're welcome to do that. Maybe just raise your hand or go ahead and unmute and ask your question. We don't want to miss anyone's questions.
Yeah. Violetta, you had a question?
Oh, actually, I read it here. Working all the timelines for IPP denials, appeals, notices of action. You can find them online. We have them, if you go to disabilityrightscalifornia.org, we have a lot of publications and concerns where you go into the rights under the Lanternman Act, and that states every single, when it comes to timelines, when it comes to denials, appeals, everything when it comes to, 30 days, 60 days, 50 days. I know I threw out a lot of days here. So everything that you have those answers there, the regional center would also have those answers. If you contact your service coordinator, they can provide you those answers as well.
And then it looks like Kenya, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Amanda.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had to unmute myself. Yeah, going back to the answer that you gave as far as consumers who have big ticket items and going back to committee, what I didn't hear it accurate timeline or a steady, what am I trying to say? A timeline. Is there an actual timeline, or where is that cited at? That's what I'm asking.
We've seen sites when it comes to a reasonable amount of time, and that's going to be the lawyer speak here when it comes to, it depends, our favorite phrase. When it comes to getting a decision like that and they need to go back to a committee, we've been running that a reasonable time is about 2 weeks.
Okay, so not months. And can you still file, I guess, you were stating an appeal, or if it takes longer than 2 weeks?
Yes, you absolutely can still apply for an appeal if they are taking their decision longer than is reasonable. If it's unreasonable amount of time, according to the consumer, you absolutely can still file an appeal. And we've seen a lot of times that even just asking for a hearing usually makes them magically make that decision a little faster.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I see Amanda.
Yes, Amanda has her hand up.
I have two questions. One question is, so right now I have a button, like if I have a seizure, and California Mentor is paying for it right now, but originally the regional center was supposed to pay for it, and it was taking them a while to get to pay for it. So the regionals, so my coordinator from California Mentor was talking to my coordinator from the regional center, and they said they had to go back to committee, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take or whatnot, and if they're going to take the button away from me in the process.
If there is a concern that you're going to lose services in between a time that they are making a committee decision, I highly suggest that you call our office and we can assist you in talking with the regional center with you to find out what is going on with that. That is definitely something our office can assist you with. They cannot take away a service without giving you at least 30 days notice. So just so you know, even if they're going back to a committee and needing a question, they cannot take away a service without giving you that notice of action document. And even from then, it would take 30 days. And from that point, you would have already called our office and we would have put a shutdown on that.
And then my other question is, so my coordinator from California Mentor is, I don't know how to explain it, but she isn't listening to me. And I don't know how to deal with that not listening to me and how to get a different coordinator.
that's actually a great question. I did not mention that. If any client feels that they are not being listened to, you absolutely have the right to ask for a new coordinator. When it comes to either a service provider or a new coordinator through the regional center, you absolutely have the right to ask for a new coordinator, and you can either send it in an email, ask in person, but I suggest always having it in writing somehow.
Her boss doesn't seem to want to listen to me either, so I don't know. I think I would need an advocate.
Definitely, if that's a concern that you've already requested that and you feel that you're still not being listened to, I highly suggest contacting our office, and that is something that we can assist you with. I know that they have put in my information, my phone number, and my email address. So definitely, I suggest you can call our office, you can send an email, and that is something we can assist with.
Okay.
And there are a couple of other questions in the chat, and we'll get to you. I see, Brenna, your hand's up, and then we have another question for Mary Lee. But Eric is asking, due to COVID-19, can I designate at the IPP a family member to provide transportation to and from my job through the participant-directed services?
Let me see that.
It's from Eric.
When it comes to transportation, you do have the right to ask for a family member or ask for any other person to provide transportation. I don't know if that family member would be part of the participant-directed services. COVID has changed a little bit when it comes to trying to find areas where they are really condensing the amount of people that are around you just for lockdown situations. That's definitely something that you can ask your service coordinator about, and they can let you know whether it's going to be in the participant-directed services. If they are having trouble or they are fighting back and everything, that is definitely also a situation that you can either call our office or call state council and get some more clarification, and we can assist you in getting that designation happening.
I'm going to launch the poll right now, and then we have still plenty of time to answer more of the questions. So I'm going to go ahead. You're going to see a screen on top of your screen. Can you all see that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the first question is, did you learn something about the individual program plan process and appeal rights? And the second question is, are you satisfied with this activity? This will give Kelsey a minute to look at some of the other questions in the chat. Thank you all for participating. I know it's hard if you're on the phone to do this, but most of you are on computers. Okay, well, 2 more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it. And we'll share the results. Okay, so for the one person who says they didn't learn anything, please feel free to follow up with us, especially if you're a person who learns better by reading things. There are resources on disability rights websites, and feel free to email Kelsey or email Kathy or myself, and we'll make sure to get you some information in writing if that's a better method for you to learn. So we understand that. We choose not to use PowerPoints for these chats, but I know some people learn better that way. So go ahead, Kelsey, if you see another question that you want to ask. I'm going to turn it back over to Kathy.
Okay.
Okay. I'm seeing this one question about from Mary Lee, that your son's services, that there was a conference request that had to go to a finance committee that met weekly. I've heard that too, when it comes to just services that would require a little bit extra finances, that they needed it approved or to have a game plan when it comes to paying for that service. Is again, if they are taking an unreasonably long amount of time to follow up with that request and get you an answer, then if it's going to be a new service or continuing, I would highly suggest he's following up with the service coordinator to find out whether there's going to be a yes or a no to that service. And if they either do not respond in a reasonable amount of time or they say no, then I would suggest, if you feel that you really need that service, to appeal. And I see the next one is from Maria, that you've asked for additional hours for respite through participant-directed services during the pandemic, but they have not responded. So if they have not responded, I suggest we've suggested to ask again, send it in writing, whether it's email, and then if they still do not respond, again, when it comes to a reasonable amount of time that they're not going to respond, is asking for either a hearing or contacting the regional center director to find out what is happening with that and why you are not getting that response.
Okay, and it looks like Brenna Garcia has her hand up for a question. Brenna?
Hi, I was just gonna help out with the timeline. In my county, it was every month. They only met for committee once a month. You have to find out from your worker the amount of meetings that they have in your particular county. It's probably based on population or how many clients they're serving under ALTA or under your regional center, for that matter, because I know this is statewide. So, and they should be able to tell you when the meetings for committee are happening. I would also recommend, even though there might be a timeline, you follow up with your worker regularly. We've had instances where I have actually let go of workers, and I requested a new one, which also delays the process, so keep that in mind. Yes, I do. So it's very important to just kind of be the squeaky wheel during any requests for DME or equipment that's needed to go to committee. And for the hours, they only allow 72 hours for respite. If you're working, you can get more. I think the max, if you're working or they prove that you're working, it's 100 and something. But if you have a child under the age of 21, maybe you can check to see, or maybe if you are under 21, maybe you can check to see if you qualify for SCDD coverage. So there's hopefully that helps you. Anyone?
Yes, that's definitely some good points, especially when it comes to being the squeaky wheel. We've noticed this a lot, that continually asking and being that squeaky wheel, you will get answers faster. And I've known,
sorry,
definitely.
The proper squeaky wheel is submitting in writing, submitting an email to the supervisor and your worker. And if that doesn't work, just go to the director directly. Like, we were looking to get a bath chair, and it's been 2 years, but I've let go of a worker, and she was replaced, and then this worker wasn't on top of it, so it was my fault too, because I didn't stay on top of it to follow up. Oh, hi, you're my new worker. Where is this? You know, you kind of have to, if you get a new worker, you also have to follow up and remind them that this is what they were working on, because in some instances, they're not going to take the initiative to look at your case until your annual review comes up. So just something to keep in mind.
And
If
you
I
don't
could,
have to wait
go
for
ahead.
your annual review. You will get a meeting within 30 days whenever you ask. So you don't have to wait until your annual review is going to come up, or it's normally every 3 years, and then it's every year if you are in a certain situation. So, but they have to provide an IPP meeting whenever you ask within 30 days.
I just wanted to remind everyone that tonight from 6 to 8, Alta Regional Center is having their purchase of service disparities meeting, and they really welcome everyone in the community. We'll be helping them to host it on Zoom, so we all know that you all know how to access Zoom now, and we hope others can join that format. Hopefully we can get a lot more community input and involvement since we don't have to drive to one location. I will try to find the link in the next couple of minutes and put it in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to email me and I can give you the link to sign up for that meeting tonight. Thank you so much.
Okay, it looks like Sid, do you have a question? Or you have a comment?
I just wanted to piggyback to what Brenna said.
What is SPDP, question mark?
EPSDP.
We regularly remind parents that whether it's school district or regional center, send the email, always CC yourself so you can keep a copy of it and it's readily available. And if you don't get a response from the service coordinator, the next step is to CC the supervisor. And frequently that's all, it is frequently resolved at that point. But always, always, always everything in writing for always, always, always. And keep a copy, just CC yourself on it. Makes life much easier.
If you send it in an email, you will have it in your sent file too.
I raised her right.
Yes, I always suggest things in writing, and but I also understand that there are clients where either a computer or that type of technology is not accessible to them. So if in person is the best way that you're going to access those, I also suggest with those clients to keep a journal somehow where you write down physically, spoke to so-and-so on this date for this amount of time about this topic. And that's going to be the second best way to really keep track of who you've been in contact with if the technology when it comes to computers or cell phone or emails is really just outside of your accessibility.
Okay, I don't think I'm seeing any other questions in the chat. Oh, but Carolyn, your hand's raised. And you're muted, Carolyn. Carolyn, if you're speaking, you're muted, and so we cannot hear you. Okay. Okay, we can go back to Carolyn. Is there anybody else have any questions or anything they'd like to share? Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, great.
At the start of school, when your child receives a letter of when school is starting and it's supposed to start on a specific date, and they don't have the staff hired by that date, and the substitute that is supposed to be long-term doesn't have the curriculum, is there a specific time within the state of California that the children are supposed to be in school? Because obviously their services are required. Their services like Alta Regional Center, it's required that they go to school. But is there something that the parents can uphold the district to, or the county office of education to ensure that, because it's happened 2 years in a row, to ensure that the school starts on at the time that they stated, in essence.
So I think that you're speaking more about IEPs or school districts in general. If you are having concerns with the school district, we have he's talked about using when it comes to the Department of Education and filing either complaints or these statements about violations with the Department of Education. Okay. So if you're having an issue with your school district, the Department of Education would be the best place to contact to resolve those issues.
I've only submitted a complaint for not adhering to the IEP evals, so that'll be interesting. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
And then it looks like Mary Lee has a comment. There are a lot of parents who ask her how to apply for additional respite hours as a remote worker with a child with distance learning at home.
Yes, we're seeing quite a bit of those as well. You would contact your service coordinator, and you would apply for those in the same way that you would apply for additional respite hours in any other form, and discuss the reasonings for that. We're seeing a lot more of individuals requesting additional respite hours because of distance learning. So if they are having concerns about that or need additional guidance on how to do that, we have plenty of publications to assist with that, and welcome to call our office and we can assist in either requesting more respite hours, or if you get a denial for those, what your next steps will be.
Okay. Sid, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention to Brenna, if you have not already requested an IEP, I would do that first and CC your SELPA director. I would and be ready to file the compliance complaint, but I would start with, and I know where you live. I know where you live. And so start with the IEP and CC the SELPA director. I think she's pretty good at straightening things out.
The SELPA director with the county? Because this is why Yolo County Office of Education, it's not the district.
Right. So you want to do your Yolo County SELPA director.
Well, I might go the other route if I want expedited, because this school is supposed to start at a certain time and it hasn't started.
Filing a compliance complaint isn't going to expedite it. They've added time to the compliance complaint timeline. So give me a call. I'll put my cell number in the chat.
Sid, do you want to introduce yourself as well so that people know that you're a great resource out there for families as well?
I'm Sid Van Corsel. I'm the project director for Warmline Family Resource Center. And
Sid,
100% of what I do at Warmline is around special education. So you can call. I'm actually in the office a couple days a week now, but I'll put my cell phone number in the chat so that you can call me directly when I'm not in the office.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Kenya Martinez, thank you for adding in the chat. Regarding special education services, contact your local PTI, Parent Training Information Center, for guidance.
And we're the PTI for Far Northern California.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any problems with their IEP or any issues with IEP. I just have an issue with them not starting school in the timely manner that they've stated, and then not having the staff hired.
That's an IEP issue. So I'll put my number in the chat.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right, any IPP questions, or I see something just popped up.
Yeah. Do you have that from Renee
So-
Griffin?
Yeah, Renee, you're saying that it's been 6 months without following the IPP. So
Just unmute yourself, Renee. There you go.
Sorry about that, yes.
yes, so if you're having concerns that services cannot be taken away without them sending a notice of action, and then it would be 30 days. So they cannot just take away any service without first notifying you and without a 30-day period where you would still have that service. Again, if you're having concerns that the IPP is not being followed, I highly suggest that again, you can contact your service coordinator. You can request a meeting to discuss why it's not being followed. And if they're still having concerns about any follow-up activity, you're welcome to contact either State Council, or you can contact Disability Rights California, the Office of Clients' Rights Advocacy, and we can assist you in taking next steps.
Well, it's been unusual since we've been sheltered in all this time, and my daughter's older, goes to a day program that can't open.
Oh,
They're having to totally redo everything. They cannot
Yes.
open like we know them. So everything's up in the air, and it looks like
That's
we're
the big-
starting all over.
exactly. That's a big issue we're seeing right now, are when you have day programs listed in the IPPs, but the day programs are not opening, or they have a date that they might open and it hasn't happened right now. Unfortunately, they're looking at that they have to take precedence when it comes to lockdown orders and state orders. When it comes to that, we had a couple of clients within a day program that they were doing one-on-one facilitators, and one of the facilitators went to a home where they were not told that they had been exposed to COVID. Turns out everyone tested positive. That facilitator, who was going to multiple homes, now everyone had to be put on quarantine, and it exposed a lot of clients to COVID, and especially exposed a couple of ones that are immunocompromised. So it was a very big issue that I'm seeing, especially with our immunocompromised community. He's just being safe than sorry. There's not much more we can do when it comes to definitely health concerns, but I can definitely see you contacting them to find alternative methods, either one-on-one or more respite hours, or some sort of program where your child can be interacting with maybe one single person who can form like a little bubble so that both of them are safe. That's the best options that we're doing at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay, Kelsey, Carolyn is back on. Carolyn, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I have a question regarding my IPP. My current IPP was amended back in, I believe, May, and it was regarding, because my son is 17, basically all he's getting right now for me is respite. That's basically, they told me that's all that Regional Center supplies right now until he's 18. But he's soon to be 18, and I asked my coordinator regarding daycare and some of these things, that when they start up, can we put that on the new IPP that they're suggesting? And he said no, because until he's in school, he cannot, while he's in school, he cannot get daycare. Is that correct?
From what I'm seeing, is that the daycare program that they're talking about is more for individuals outside of school. If he is still in school, the school district takes care of a lot of items that the regional center would take second place in. That's what I've seen. If he is going to be graduating, then it can be reasonable to contact them to start planning an IPP for when he leaves school.
Well, that's what I was trying to get them to write goals in the future, because they're writing this new IPP for the next 3 years. And I just signed an amendment in May saying, and it was only affecting respite, due to the COVID, but in the wording on my current IPP, it says that to parent satisfaction. So I'm able to get exceptional respite because my son needs 24-hour care and adult supervision. And the coordinator said that when school starts, that would be reduced. But school hasn't really started, even though it's just online. It's me doing everything because the school isn't providing the one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm worried that if I sign this new IPP, that they will no longer honor that that amendment that I signed in May. I mean, I'm just afraid to make any changes because I don't want to lose the level of service I'm getting.
So you would not lose any previous service that you would get from an already signed amended agreement. If he's asking for additional services or any additional issues that would come up on a new one, that does not invalidate an old one. So
okay.
I can see them looking at that and saying it's kind of a proposed plan only because we don't know what the world is going to look like when he leaves school or what's going to happen.
Right.
If you are looking at more respite services, I would definitely speak with the service coordinator about that, about keeping the same amount of respite only because of distance learning, that these are services that you believe you would be receiving because they would be in school. But now that they're not in school, they're at home, they're not receiving those services.
Yeah.
I've been seeing them taking over some of the school district issues because the school districts are not allowing individuals to go into homes.
Right. And that's the wording he kept deleting because on my old IPP, it said respite to parent satisfaction. And he basically just deletes that.
If they delete it, then you write it right back in and say, this is what I'm agreeing to. If they try to delete that, say, I do not agree with this deletion.
Right. Okay. And that's what I was thinking too next. There's so many things. And then I do have one more question, if you don't mind. This is regarding conservatorship. Can I get help going through the conservatorship from Clients' Rights Advocacy? Because I don't know what I'm doing and I can't afford attorney.
Our office does not really assist with conservatorship only because our office is to making sure that there are rights for the client of the regional center, and a conservatorship is technically against our policy in removing a client's rights, even if it's for a policy concerning issue. But what our office does help with is limited conservatorships and other concerns when it comes, especially within IEPPs, that saying, oh, well, we can help when it comes to that you have a limited conservatorship over financial and medical issues, but he has conservatorship over other issues. We don't assist with full conservatorships, but when it comes to limited ones, we can assist in their publications on how you can take that next step.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm also working on the conservatorship. So I said if I go through the county, I call the number for the county's court. I have the paperwork here for the county's
I also want to add that if anyone is concerned about just attorney costs or anything where it would be an issue that would be outside of either disability rights realm or if it's outside the state council's realm, I've seen a lot of positive outreach for legal services of Northern California. It is this area's legal aid society. So you can definitely contact the Sacramento branch and ask for, they can help give you recommendations for either low cost or pro bono attorneys.
Yeah, you don't need an attorney for that. It's an online thing. You go and it guides you through filling it out, and you have to call and get the link sent to you though. So
Okay.
they can guide you after that. But if you want, you can call me and I'll help you out if you can get through them too.
Kathy Bryan, is that who I call?
Yes, Sonia will put in the chat box who you can contact. I know there are other questions. Maria had one hopefully quick question, and then we can make sure that we look at the chat and get back to people. But if somebody's 18 years old, if there's a client that's 18 years old, she was told that a parent can provide respite at home. Is that correct? And then we should wrap this up due to our time constraints. We like to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yes, so a parent can act as a respite within the home. If that's the question about parents acting as a respite, yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. Well,
I'm including the Legal Services of Northern California phone number.
Okay, great.
Somebody asked for that.
Great. And if anybody has a question, even after we leave this chat that you have, please feel free to contact Kelsey directly or Sonia or I at the State Council. We're delighted to offer these chats. The other thing, we'd like some feedback on what kind of chats you guys would like to hear about. So thank you for being with us. Really appreciate your time. Everybody's very busy. And hopefully we'll see you on our next chat. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.